Fakumram was revealed to be the next DLC character for Season Pass 2, and in a previous video I went back to Tekken 7 and took a look at how the character worked back in that game and how he might work in Tekken 8. And since a lot of you guys enjoyed that video, I thought to myself, why not take a look at another character that's most likely going to be revealed at EVO Las Vegas later this year, and that character is Armour King. So let's take a look at how Armour King worked back in Tekken 7, as well as speculate on how the character might work in Tekken 8 and just talk about the character in general. Okay, so let's talk about AK's tools in Tekken 7, of course starting off with movement. So AK had the generic Mishima Waivu, like this man's had a wave dash, bro. It is so sick. Now this was kind of unique to him, although King did have a wave dash, but it was not the wave dash in the traditional sense. You had to do some special input for King. It was very different from Armour King's wave dash. Now that is not the case in Tekken 8, though King can do the basic wave dash, which is something I'll get into later in the video when I start talking about identity and how it will be difficult to implement AK in Tekken 8 with what they've given King. But yeah, he had a cool ass wave dash in Tekken 7, and like this was mad scary because Armour King, of course being a grappler, had like super sick throws from his wave dash, right? But I'll get to that later again. So sick ass Waivu, he had a good sidestep, one of the best sidesteps in the game, and of course he also had a great backdash. I played AK a lot and I love movement. One of my biggest inspirations in terms of pro players is JTCR, and JTCR I think to this day still has the best movement in Tekken, like in general. And watching this man play Armour King, even like back in Tekken 6 with the movement, oh my fucking days bro, like this man can move. So AK's movement super S tier, not Tekken 7 Zafina S tier, but it was good. And if nothing changes in terms of his movement, I think he'll be a strong character in Tekken 8. Again, that's if they don't tone down his movement a lot, because like I think it's one of his biggest strengths and it should remain that way. So on to his punishment next, starting off with his standing punishment. So for 10 frames he had 2-1, which is basically just King's 2-1. For 12 frames he had back 1-2, which again is very similar to King's back 1-2. Then he had a 13 frame long range shoulder. That shoulder was sick. I think it could even punish Brian's 3+4. Like Brian's 3+4 is -13 but has massive pushback. AK was one of the only characters in the game that could punish Brian's 3+4. It was a very sick shoulder. Then for 14 frames he had down back 2-4, which was also a good punisher for like long range moves like Death Fist. And then of course 15 frames he had a hop kick as well as his gold fist. And then for outstanding punishment, he had outstanding 4, a very chunky ass outstanding 4. And with most characters that have chunky outstanding 4s, they don't tend to usually have strong 13 frame punishers. For example, Bob in Tekken 7 also had a strong chunky outstanding 4 punishment, 11 frame, so he did not have a 13 frame punisher. However, he did have a 14 frame punisher, so that applies to Armour King as well. Very strong outstanding 4. No 13 frame outstanding punisher, however he did have a 15 frame elbow, which was kind of shit, had trash range, needed buffs for days, but again it was still good enough to get the job done. So in terms of punishment, AK had it going for him. However, I do feel as though in Tekken 8 a lot of characters now have very strong punishment. Like Raven was not known for punishment, bro, but like Raven's punishment is kind of OD right now in Tekken 8. So is punishment a kind of like, is it a thing now where you look at a character and say, okay, this character had really strong punishment that makes him unique? I don't think that works anymore, bro. Like off the top of my head I can only think of, let's say Asuka has a shit 10 frame punisher, maybe June has no 15 framer, Zafina has no 15 framer. But like outside of that, it just feels as though characters hit super hard in Tekken 8 for the punishment, for bad punishment not to matter all that much. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I don't feel as though having bad punishment in quotes is like a super big weakness in Tekken 8, because like yeah, that game is like on mad steroids. But in the context of T7, yeah, AK in terms of punishment was super gout like, bro. His punishment, this fucker hit hard. Now let's talk archetype. What was Armour King's game plan? Like, what was his strategy? What was his archetype? What did this man do? Why did you pick Armour King? Now firstly, you picked Armour King because of how fucking cool he looks. Like, look at the screen, bro. Look at the screen, Michael. The character is super sick, and if you don't think AK is cool, bro, I gotta question your character choice, man. Your taste is kinda mid, let's be honest. So Armour King was a grappler, one might say pseudo grappler, cause he did not have grabs to the same degree as King. So he was a grappler that he utilized mostly his command grabs from his wave dash. He had a two-way break between a 2 and a 1, so you had to guess. It was a completely guess. When King does wave 2+3 or wave 1+4, they had the same break animation. Think of King's Giant Swing with Shining Wizard mix-up. The same thing on his wave dash, which led into chain throws. This was like perhaps the biggest, I think, cheese or the cheapness that Armour King had. Because again, you had access at any time, bro. Like from a wave dash. King has that manually going to like a wave dash and then grabbing you, but Armour King just wave dashes in your face and you have to guess sidestep, duck, or interrupt. So this made this character very, very scary. When he's just dashing in your face, you know he's trying to go for a grab. And to mix this up, he had the Stone Cold Stunner. Oh my god. King has forward 3 in Tekken 8. It's kind of the same thing, except he had the stunner, so back for 1+2. He also had forward 2, which was safe to use a mix-up. He also had wave 4 or forward neutral quarter circle forward 4 into stomp. This was like the core mechanic of Armour King's game plan or his archetype. Of course, he had other grabs like his Tombstone, his QCF back 1+2, the Tijuana driver, a Shining Wizard as well. So he did have grabs outside of his wave dash. So mostly if you look at Armour King and want an identity or an archetype, he was like a pseudo grappler, mostly using mix-ups with his freaking wave dash. Now he has a lot much I'll talk about later, because he's kind of like a heavy poking character, stroke counter hit fisher as well. So this kind of made him different from King in a sense. But like that changed a lot in like season 4 as well as Tekken 8, as we've seen King currently right now. But in terms of what archetype and what Armour King was all about the command grabs, all about the wave dash, as well as counter hit stuff I'll talk about. Sticking to the subject of archetype, Armour King was a pretty good character at poking as well. So the idea behind AK was poke, right? Poke, 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 and then go big with a command grab. Poke, 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 go big with a command grab. So that was basically AK 101. Use your movement, use your poking, and then go big with a huge command grab into chain throws. So he had a decent down forward 1, down forward 4, he had decent jabs, and he also had some pretty good lows. So the forward neutral 2 that Armour King had was perhaps the most broken move on this character. The move was a counter hit launcher, and it was only -14 on block. Think King right now, but a counter hit launching forward neutral 2. He also had King's down 3 as well as a very generic down 4, but a very good down 4 with a good range. Of course, down 4s are kind of different right now in Tekken 8 because they're like super risky, but in Tekken 7 this was super strong, the down 4. These are like perhaps Armour King's like best low pokes, right? Also had a slow ass down back 3. Think of King's down back 3 but launch punishable because it was reactable. But other than that, he did not have like super OP lows, but again, you only needed forward neutral 2. Like, it was more than enough. The idea again was chip away with pokes and then go big with a chain throw. Use your movement with punishment with the gold fist. That was like peak Armour King gameplay. Okay, so let's get into Armour King's counter hits, because this was by far one of the strongest characters in the game when it came to counter hit tools, bro. Like, this man was a counter punching paragon. Like, honestly, he had insane counter hit tools. So he had back 1 that came from King's back 1 too. Of course, King also had a counter hit launcher from back 1 in Tekken 7. So Armour King had this. He had down forward 2, which was a homing mid, by the way. Homing mid -12. However, he could mix that up with a high. So he had down forward 2-1, which was a mid high. So it was up to you to decide whether you wanted to go for the first hit or mix that up with the high. Of course, if you mix it up, you wouldn't get the counter hit. So this was stupid strong, bro. Like, it was so annoying because again, it was a homing move. So I don't know if this makes it back to Tekken 8, but like, it was good. It was very, very strong. Now, of course, T7 in general just had a lot of counter hit moves, so I'm not surprised this was a thing in Tekken 7. Of course, we spoke about forward neutral 2, the low being a counter hit launcher as well. He had down forward 3, counter hit knee, classic down forward 3, man. Shout out Tekken 6 days. He also had up forward 3, another counter hit launching mid. So counter hit gameplay was OD on Armour King. This is something that drove me to the character, of course, outside of how the character looks. I just love counter hit gameplay. This is why we play Steve, right? So yeah, Armour King's counter hit gameplay was pretty good. So on top of his counter hits, you had to worry about command grabs. So yeah, the character was pretty, like, he was a pretty good character. It just sucked that there were just better options on Tekken 7, bro. Like, despite all this, believe me, this was not cheap in Tekken 7. There were like so many other characters that like 10 times worse, bro. AK had so much honor, it's insane. So Architype again, counter hit based, poking, but mostly revolving around his command grabs and his throws. Perhaps his biggest weakness in Tekken 7 was his rage drive. I think in Tekken 7 you had to have a good rage drive to stand out against the best. Like, honestly, this rage drive sucked ass. So Armour King had QCF 1+2, which spat this green mist. This move was a high, and if the mist hit, whichever grab he did as a follow-up would be unbreakable. So it was more so of a gimmick rather than something you just threw out there, right? So you had characters like Murdoch that can completely delete your health by using a rage drive, characters like Po who could splat you from the fucking North Pole, characters like Devil Jin that had the launching hell sweep in rage, and then Armour King had this shit. Like, bro, like, what? So this was like the only thing holding AK back in this game from being like super strong. He had everything in terms of tools needed, but just the rage drive sucked so bad, most people didn't think it was worth actually picking up the character. Alright, so that was just a brief summary on how AK worked in T7. I know there's probably more I haven't covered, but I don't want to make the video too long, guys, so I apologize. So for closing, let's talk about how AK might work in Tekken 7, or just how exactly is this man's going to play in Tekken 8. So right off the bat, they're gonna have to differentiate Armour King from King, cause King as of right now mostly revolves around his muscle armor as well as his Jaguar dash, right? I don't think King players grab as much, honestly. He is a grappler, but I feel as though you see more of King poking and using muscle armor and giant swing and shining wizard mix up, and I don't see that many chain throws. I might be wrong, but I think this one is a difficult one. I think it's a hard one, bro. But I think for AK, they'll have to focus on his wave dash mix up with the throws. So implement that as Armour King's identity. Because King is more so on the slower side of things, because he's always spamming armor, right? He has a horrible backdash. So I think Armour King can be the opposite of this, can be super fast with his wave dash, as well as a very good backdash as well. Then revolve his Architype around the chain throws from his wave dash. He can add like super strong mids when he's in hit to use as a mix up for the chain throws, right? And maybe the chain throws get buffed in hit or something like that. I think that's the idea I would have for Armour King. I don't think a lot of his counter hit tools are going to survive Tekken 8, but I think some like up forward 3, down forward 3 are gonna make the cut, but back 1 definitely won't make it back, and down forward 2 won't make it back either. But on second thought, maybe it might, because down forward 2 is kind of iconic and it's also mid-high, so maybe it might, but I think it might be too OP for Tekken 8, but we'll see. But overall, yeah, I think to differentiate AK from King, that's what I would do if I was in charge of AK. Okay, so when is the next review? So this will 100% be at EVO Las Vegas this year. So this is July 19th. We'll get to see the next DLC character. And A lot of people are convinced it's going to be AK, but something tells me it might be Kunimitsu, bro. Like, one thing I've learned about Namco right now is like lower expectations. Like, I want AK, I'm hyped for AK, but like, how many times am I going to be disappointed, bro? Like, rip Bruce, oh, the cool last Muay Thai. So like, I'm not falling for this shit again, bro. Like, I want AK, I'm hyped for AK, but like, I just have to tell myself that it's Kunimitsu and maybe it will be AK, because if I keep saying it's AK, it's 100% going to be Kuni. I have nothing against Kuni, I think she's cool, but I think AK just deserves to come back right now, and AK will get a lot of positive feedback and exude more positivity as compared to what we had with Fakumram. And I think if Kunimitsu comes again, it will be the same thing, right? Mixed reviews on the character. So hopefully it's AK, but I don't know, man. I think it's Kuni, bro. I think it's Kuni. Imagine if it's Ganryu, bro, because Ganryu is purple as well. Like that would hit hard, bro. That would hit hard. So anyway, guys, just thought I would talk a bit about AK. We broke down Fakumram last time, so I thought, you know, what the hell, let's break down AK. And maybe my next video will break down some Lei Wulong. So let me hear your thoughts. Who do you think will be the next character reviewed for the purple color at EVO? Do you think it's Kuni? Do you think it's AK, or do you think it's someone completely different like Ganryu or Master Raven? Talk to ya boy. So anyway, thank you so much as usual for taking the time to watch my video. If you've made it this far, don't forget to that like button and subscribe if you're new. Nemi gang, with the frame data be ever in your favor. GG.